Through sepia air the boarders come and go, impersonal as trains. Pass silently the craving silence swallowing her speech. Click doors like shutters on her camera eye. Because of her, their lives become exact. Their entrances and exits are designed. Phone calls are cryptic. Oh, her ticklish ears advance and fall back stunned. Nothing is unprepared. They hold the walls about them as they weep or laugh. Each face is dialed to 0 publicly. She peers stippled with curious flesh. Pads on the patient landing like a pulse, unlock their keyholes with the wire of sight. Searches their rooms for clues when they are out, pricks when they come home late. Wonders when they are quiet, jumps when they move, dreams that they dope or drink, trembles to know the traffic of their brains, jaywalks their street in clumsy shoes. Yet knows them better than their closest friends, their cupboards and their secrets in their drawers, their books, their private mail, their photographs are theirs and hers. Knows when they wash, how frequently their clothes go to the cleaners, what they like to eat, their curvature of health, but even so is not content. And like a lover, must know all. Prays she may catch them unprepared at last, and palm the dreadful riddle of their skulls, hoping the worst.
Okay, so now I think we should analyze our stanzas, starting with stanza 1.
Yeah, me too.
So I kind of saw that as her, like, watching them, and, like, especially in the last line, click doors like shutters on her camera eye. She's watching and, like, trying to remember like they do. She's taking, like, a mental image of that and, like, noting it in her head.
Yeah, and it's kind of talking about how people, like, are constantly coming and going, and how she's just kind of enthralled with their lives and wants to be, like, see everything that they're doing.
Yeah, and, like, basically she, like, is, like, renting her house out to them, but she feels like she doesn't really have a connection to them because, like, where it says impersonal as trains.
Yeah, it says the craving silence swallowing her speech. That kind of seems like she wants to talk to them, but she feels like she can't, so she just watches them instead. Okay, so for the second stanza, I thought that it was talking about how she thinks that everyone's planning their lives out to kind of hide what they're doing from her, when in reality they aren't. They're just going about their daily lives.
Yeah, and her, like, the line, oh, her ticklish ears advance and fall back stunned. I thought that was kind of like she's, like, paranoid and she's listening in on them, and, like, she thinks that maybe they're even talking about her or just they're hiding things from her that she wants to uncover.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that she chose, like, the statement, ticklish ears. Like, I think that's very diction, like, that the author used during that. I think they were very specific with that, and, like, to portray kind of just how attentively she's listening, and she's just making sure, like, she hears everything they're saying and sees everything they're doing.
Yeah, like her ears are ticklish, like they're itching to hear things.
Yeah.
I really like that.
And then in the third stanza, it kind of just reiterates, like, that she wants to be a part of their lives. In the sentence, they hold the walls about them as they weep or laugh. It kind of just conveys to me that she thinks they're, like, putting up a barrier, so, like, she can't hear or, like, know anything that they're doing.
Yeah, like, she thinks she can only see what they allow her to see, and, like, they're controlling,
Yeah.
like, how much of their lives she knows. And in reality, they don't really think about her.
Yeah, kind of like when they say each face is dialed to 0 publicly. It's like they're holding up a mask, so, like, she sees only what they want her to see.
Yeah.
And then in the fourth stanza, I thought that it was mainly, like, about, like, how she's going into their spaces, she's finding things out about them, and she's trying to, like, search their rooms for clues and be, like, kind of a little bit weird towards their spaces.
Yeah, what do you think the last line, pricks when they come home late? I feel like I had a hard time understanding that. What do you think that means?
I kind of thought of it as, like, she's, like, jolting awake, or, like, she's, like, prickly with anticipation, like, she wants to go find more out about them.
Now in the 5th, 6th, and 7th stanza, I feel like these kind of all go together about how she's, like, watching them and, like, specifically what they do, and, like, it kind of gives us more of, like, an in-depth description of how, like, she's a creeper.
Yeah, and it kind of, like, implies that she has very possessive behavior, and she's, like, kind of always snooping through their things.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely a tone in that, and especially in those 3 stanzas.
Yeah, she thinks that she knows them better than their closest friends, and she always wants to know what they're doing when they're doing it.
And in the last sentence of the 7th stanza, where it says, "But even so is not content," like, the landlady still wants to know more, even though she claims that she knows them better than their closest friends and, like, everyone that they know.
Yeah. Do you think, like, she could be talking about one person in specific, like a certain tenant, or do you think it's, like, all of her tenants in general? Because normally when you're doing this, it's, like, you rent out to, like, one tenant for, like, a month or so period, like, just, like, a transitional thing. So, but I'm wondering if there's, like, a certain tenant she's, like, focused on.
I feel like it's just, like, all of them in general.
Yeah, it sounds like all of them.
Because she uses, like, theirs a lot, like, implying that it's, like, more than one person.
Yeah. And now, an ad from Lock It Forever! Are you looking for a way to keep your creepy neighbor out of your house? Look no further. Lock It Up is here to solve all your security issues. For the next 48 hours only, you can get 2 of our all-black padlocks for $30. Each lock comes with a specially chosen lock code. Remember, for the next 48 hours only, you can get 2 of our all-black code padlocks. Order now at lockitforever.com. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programming.
And then in the last stanza, I thought that it was talking about like how she knows all about them and what their lives are, or at least she thinks she does, and she's like enthralled in their lives and she thinks that they're hiding things.
The whole last stanza basically is saying that she wants to catch them unprepared and, like, hoping the worst when she wants to find out something bad about them so she doesn't feel as bad about herself and, like, her possessive behavior and, like, going through their stuff. She wants to find something bad out about them so she doesn't feel as bad about herself. And this leads us to the speaker's complex portrayal of the landlady, because how we all saw her as, like, creepy and obsessive, we didn't take the perspective of seeing her as just, like, lonely and isolated from everyone else, because after all, she's, like, giving up sections of her home and, like, rooms in her own home for these boarders, and she just wants to feel connected to them, but she feels like they're isolating her, even if they aren't purposely doing so.
And that whole idea can also bring in the 5th stanza, where she's talking about dreams that they dope or drink, and also jaywalking. It's like these illegal activities that they are possibly doing to make her feel better for what she is doing and going into their homes and searching their private mail and stuff.
And I think she just really wants to feel a connection to these people, but she just feels like she's unable to.
And I feel like it brings us into, like, the tone, because it kind of switches throughout, like, the different chunks, especially, like, when we switch from stanza 4 to 5, 6, and 7. Those are definitely more, like, of her possessiveness. Like, you can definitely see that more. And then when you get to, like, the last stanza, you can kind of feel more sympathy for her. And especially when you're, like, still in, like, 5, you're, like, how she's, like Sienna said before about the doping and drinking, how she's just, like, hoping that they're doing these things so she, like, doesn't feel as bad about what she did to them, and it makes you feel, like, bad for her for having to do those things.
Yeah, and that kind of ties in with the figurative language in the poem. Like, enjambment, there are a lot of instances of that where, like, in the 3rd stanza, they hold the walls about them as they weep or laugh. And then in the 5th stanza, trembles to know the traffic of their brains, jaywalks their street in clumsy shoes. I think that kind of parallels how she's frantically looking for something about them and, like, details about their lives, because it kind of speeds up the poem when you're not pausing at the end of each line.
And, like, when you look into imagery, you can definitely see, like, in stanza 6, yet knows them better than their closest friends, their cupboards and the secrets of their drawers, their books, their private mail, their photographs are theirs and hers. I think, especially with that stanza, it puts an image into your head of her going through, like, their stuff, and, like, you can see that, like, really clearly of her, like, digging through their mail and, like, just opening and, like, breaking into their homes to know more about them.
I feel like that can tie into, like, the broader aspect of the poem, because it's, like, talking about how their things are hers and theirs. Like, she's trying to connect herself to their things and ideas.
Let us know your opinions on this poem or any other poems you want us to analyze on our Instagram at PoetryIsh.
Signing out, it's Devin,
Emma,
Sienna.
And Raina.